Hello and welcome to Block Tornado. How are you? And today we're going to try to talk about the communication that is necessary in order to communicate with extraterrestrials out there in the universe. Now, question is, have we looked into this? Have we thought about what kind of communication are we going to use to communicate with extraterrestrials? Now, from my own experience, I am a witness of orbs, and I have seen some sort of communication while I was observing them. But obviously, at the time, I did not know much about orbs, and I did not understand what are they trying to say. Now, we've seen some kind of communication before in the form of crop circle, for instance. Crop circles are some sort of language that perhaps extraterrestrial are using in order to try to communicate with us. But are we looking into this? Are we understanding what really is going on? Now, I strongly believe that aliens are trying to communicate with us, but I'm not 100% sure if we are ready to understand or look into this. What exactly are they trying to tell us? Or at least, are we trying to establish some sort of communication? Now, with so many extraterrestrial life out there in the universe, which is pretty much endless, each race should have a common goal with or without communicating, which is to try to understand what would be the language that everyone in the universe should try to communicate with. And that sort of language has to come out of pretty much out of logical point of view or some sort of common sense that we can all agree on, using any kind of cultural or any kind of symbolism as far as our humanity is concerned, or our language is pretty much useless to extraterrestrial life out there. That is pretty much our own kind of communication that we are using as far as our humanity goes. But this kind of communication will not apply with the rest of the universe. So that's why we have to understand what kind of language is going to be used in order to communicate with extraterrestrials. Well, we need to look into basically what nature is offering us as far as the language that we could use. For instance, colors, pulsating lights, perhaps, sounds, anything that is naturally occurring that doesn't come from our own humanity, that's naturally occurring in the universe, in the nature, that we could use in order to communicate with aliens. Most likely what we see here on Earth, such as colors and sounds, is probably what they see on the other side of the galaxy. So communicating through light and colors and sounds is probably what extraterrestrials will try to do. And that's the universal language that we should be looking into. So in my experience with orbs, color orange is commonly used as a form of communication. So what exactly does orange could represent? Well, most of the time is orange. It's not red or blue or green. However, orange is a color of peace. Then supposed to, for instance, using color red would be more of a color of danger, or color that is not necessarily friendly. So that's the communication they're using in order to communicate with us. So color orange is very common amongst orbs. And that's the first type of signal that it's commonly used as far as extraterrestrial life goes to communicate with humanity. Also, there are patterns in lights that we still need to understand what they mean, or symmetrical flight patterns orbs are using to communicate. As far as crop circles are concerned, I'm 100% sure we actually have the evidence that they are actually some sort of language used by extraterrestrials in a form of orbs, UFO orbs, that are trying to communicate with us through symmetrical shapes. These are very early signs of extraterrestrial communication with us. Again, displaying colors and crop circles. Those are some of the most common. However, there are many extreme cases where it involves alien abductions, and in such cases, unfortunately, only certain individuals are being exposed to aliens, and therefore we don't have a solid proof or whatnot that can actually tell the rest of humanity or confirm to the rest of humanity that aliens actually exist. However, we should not dismiss such stories such as Bob Lazar's story or Barney and Betty Hill's story that could actually be true. So therefore, we have to also take them seriously as much as possible. I do talk about Barney and Betty Hill and Bob Lazar in my previous videos. If you want, you can have a look at them and understand what are some of the things that actually add up and what are some of the things that don't add up. Although I noticed some kind of patterns are involved, such as particularly a planet which aliens might come from, which is Zeta Reticuli. Now, that's sort of a pattern that I noticed between these two stories, Barney and Betty Hill's story and Bob Lazar's story. There seems to be some sort of connection. However, in the world of UFOs, unfortunately, there is a lot of fake information, and basically to capitalize on those kind of stories for own personal gains, for personal satisfactions. So that's why hunting for the truth is rather difficult, but it's yet very important. Also, as you know, I did talk about Ivan channel, Ivan 0135, that was created 2011, that supposedly whoever uploaded those videos claims to be footage that is authentic as far as extraterrestrial goes. And what's very interesting, which is also part of this pattern that I'm talking about, he also mentions this Zeta Reticuli planet that supposedly these aliens are visiting us from. So such patterns and such hunt for the truth is rather necessary. However, we have to be cautious that perhaps those stories didn't come from one source. Question is, what was the footage created, uploaded on Ivan's channel? Did it actually derive from the story of Barney and Betty Hill? Did this person got the information from them and then recreate those aliens from the way they were described by Barney and Betty Hill? But the same goes with Bob Lazar's story. So this pattern that I'm talking about Zeta Reticuli, also seems to be present in his story as well. So again, it's easy to connect the dots if you listen to all three situations, but the question is, do those people, where did they get information from? Was it authentic aliens, extraterrestrials they seen, or they actually borrow the information from each other and create the stories? And that's what we have to be cautious about. So, but we cannot and we should not dismiss such information. For one thing, I'm a witness of orbs, and what I've seen with my own eyes is quite real and therefore I must, assume at least that there is some kind of force out there of extraterrestrial origin that is present on our planet. And I do talk a lot about this orb phenomena, that seems to be quite common and growing in popularity around the world, especially now that we're able to record them with smartphones. And I do talk about that, how these orbs were present throughout history, even in the caveman days, where such paintings of orbs, of lights in the skies, or some kind of round objects were drawn on the stone. So I strongly believe that our government is actually tied in with orb phenomena because of the Illuminati symbol. And what do I mean by that? Well, like I explained before, basically Illuminati means illuminating light. Also, if you look at the symbol, the actual upper part of the pyramid is actually hovering in the air, which orbs do as well. And not just that, but the all-seeing eye, to me, seems like these orbs are observing us throughout history. And the all-seeing eye, the e pluribus unum, above all none, the eye of providence, kind of ties in with this symbol. And the question comes up immediately, what exactly is Illuminati symbol? And is there any kind of extraterrestrial presence that could be controlling the government? Which David Icke talks about a lot, and about reptilian race controlling our government, trying to enslave us. And I actually see point in his theory, because these orbs that are present among us, they seem to be something that we just cannot understand. And what exactly is their purpose, and what are they doing, and what is their relation to us? So that's some of the questions that come up. However, you can see clearly that there are alien life forms out there present at the moment as we speak, especially if Bob Lazar's story is true about the UFOs at S4 that were found supposedly as part of the archaeological dig. And S4, or should I say a military, has them in their possession, if the story is true. But without evidence, again, this whole situation is up for debate. That's why area of aliens is very gray area to begin with. So understanding this universal communication, we have to understand that what kind of language we are allowed to use, or should we use, in order to communicate with aliens. Again, anything to do with our own culture should not apply, because obviously another race of extraterrestrials are not familiar with. So we have to use something that's commonly present in our universe, and therefore we can assume that what we see here on Earth should also be present or spread out throughout the universe. We have to understand that the language they used amongst themselves will be unfamiliar to us, and therefore we have to assume that our language will be unfamiliar to them unless we try to learn it. But for now, such thing most likely will not happen. So again, we're going to have to use basic natural occurrences that happen around the universe, like colors, sounds, temperature perhaps, that we can all communicate through. That should be the first idea, universal idea amongst extraterrestrial life and us, to establish some sort of language, and with or without us communicating with them for now. That should have been in everyone's mind across the universe, to be able to establish communication, but a right type of communication that we can all agree on. Again, we all wonder what is universe. We all wonder, where are we? And that's something that perhaps we can find out together, And the only way to do that is to communicate with each other, again, through a specific language. And again, I highly think that such language, such as colors, temperatures, sounds, and more, that naturally occur throughout the universe should have been used as part of communication. Again, like I said before, orbs using color orange to communicate with us, it's one such natural occurrence in the universe that aliens are trying to communicate with. So again, our galaxy needs a universal language, universal communication. Such idea of creating this universal language, if with other intelligent life form out there, should be necessary. Even though we don't communicate with each other for now, but that should be logistically ideal to think about, without any communication at the moment, that such language needs to be created. Because again, we don't know extraterrestrial culture, we don't know their way of life, neither they don't know our way of life. And therefore, again, we have to use some sort of universal communication that needs to be established even before we try to communicate with each other. And the question is, are we prepared for such communication? Have we looked into it? Have we thought about this? And that's something that we still need to look into, because such phenomena at the moment, such UFO phenomena, is already happening around the world. And I strongly believe that such communication with extraterrestrials are actually trying to communicate with us already. But are we prepared to communicate with them? Are we still in a stage of disbelief? Or are we going to soon realize that those UFO orb phenomena is actually trying to communicate with us? So that's something that we have to look into and take seriously as far as universal language goes, and the communication with extraterrestrials. So you can leave in the comments your opinion of perhaps how we could communicate with aliens, if you have some other ideas. Like I explained to you, my own point of view, that using any natural occurrences that happened in the universe should also be present on other planets, and therefore I strongly think that we need to use that sort of language of physics. And therefore I believe that every extraterrestrial life out there needs to realize, or does already realize, that such communication will have to be used to communicate with the rest of, amongst each other, with the rest of the universe. So anyways, that will be my opinion for today as far as communication goes. And again, I would like to thank you if you made it all the way till here. Thank you very much. And just to let you know, I post videos every day, every second day, every third day. And also, if you need to read more about my situation with orbs, you can read about it at blogtornado.com in UFO section, UFO and orb phenomena article. You have to scroll down to the bottom, and there I talk about my experience with orbs, and I made few videos regarding orbs, and maybe you should look through some of my videos and see if you find something interesting that you actually might be looking for. So if something like this happened to you, if you're a witness of orbs or even UFOs or even flying saucers or actually the extraterrestrial themselves, please comment below, and so we can talk about it if you're interested to discuss such a encounter with aliens. That will be much appreciated. So I just want to say thank you again, and I will see you next time. Thank you. Cheers. Bye.